Okay, so for the sake of for the sake of staying with our schedule, I'd rather give you a break now, but I think we have a whole bunch of people there. So I'm just going to introduce a little bit about how the book got started. And then we'll take a brief break and then we'll really workshop the book, which I'm looking forward to. I just wanted to say that listening to everybody, which was really inspiring, there are a couple of things that I feel like somehow connected every single person here. I was just jotting them down because it really was kind of amazing. And they were that, one, there's a level of creativity and out-of-the-box thinking in everybody who is doing sort of community outreach and lodge program, and that's really, I think, unusual and necessary. It's that everybody really is based in community and relationship and an allyship to families as well as to patients. And that really everybody is trying to build hope and trust. And that's really, I think, essential to all of the things that work. Because if you're going to try to develop somebody's sense of self-worth and their sense of agency, the process, as Chris was saying, as Rob, Irene, it takes the building of trust and the ability to really keep somebody, help somebody feel hopeful, because so many people are resigned and defeated before they even start. And if there's one thing I would say about all of these programs is that, you know, there's an enormous sense that there is something good to look forward to. So anyway, why the book? The book came about largely because in the lodge at the time that Rocky was the clinical director, there was a lot of interesting success stories that had to do with the combination of clozapine and oxytocin. And initially it was, well, this seems more than coincidence, so we really should be writing about it. And then it evolved to the idea that we should write about the lodge's approach to dealing with persistent mental illness. And really, that's a huge piece of what I want to talk about. The book is about the lodge, but we want the book to be something that would be not only accessible, but hopefully in some ways inspiring to people who aren't lodge alums or people who can access that program. And so the question is, how do we do that? Why did I get involved? Well, I come at it from a couple of different angles. I'm a parent. We're parents of a child who has serious mental illness. So I knew what it was like. I'm a psychologist and I'm Rocky's wife. That in some ways could be a negative because the program was largely about Rocky and the team. But on the other hand, I had access to him on Sunday mornings when I could throw a microphone up and I could say, so what do you think about X, Y, and Z? And so in the end, they decided that there were more benefits than risks, and they asked me to get involved in writing the book. But I didn't write it by myself. I don't know if Catherine's up there. Catherine Doherty is an amazing, amazing person. She and I collaborated on the book together, and that has actually been a fabulous process because the two of us have been thinking together about what works and what doesn't work. What we did was basically start by interviewing together a large number of team members at the lodge. And these were people who were at the lodge at the time that Rocky was clinical director. So for example, Cortina was one of them. We had somebody who represented at least every discipline. So we interviewed the nurse, we interviewed Jackie, the social, and Lainey, who's also an RC. We interviewed Wallace, we interviewed Meriwether, social worker, psychiatrist. We interviewed Howard and Suma, who are both psychiatrists. We interviewed David Rowe, who was a psychologist. So we tried to get a sense from all of these people about what the lodge was about, what made it work, why things were successful. And that was the first step in the process. And then we tried to cull the themes from all of these interviews. I'm a big person. My obsessional structure came out. I have color-coded interviews, but it was very clear that people were talking a lot about the same kinds of ideas. One of them was that Rocky was a central character in all of this. I think largely when you look at programs that work, Rob and Ann's, Irene's, Rocky's, there's usually somebody who's inspiring, who is then sort of charismatically bringing other people along and then expanding out. So that was one of the things. And one of the issues that we would like to talk about is it was not so easy to think about what the balance would be between talking about Rocky, because he came up a lot in the interviews, and then the lodge program. The object was not to write a brochure about Silver Hill Hospital, but of course it's located in Silver Hill Hospital. So that was another issue and another question. One of the other issues was it was about a moment in time. I like the phrase Ellen, when she read through it, was like this, you're describing a moment in time in a particular scenario. That's been a little bit of an issue. The program is flourishing under Donna. How do we do it? Except that it was started at the time that a group of people, this particular team, was working together. So for the purposes of the book, largely it represents a slice of time, but an approach that continues forward. And I think that's one of the things I'm hoping to accomplish, we're hoping to accomplish with the book, that it would be something that would help people think about an approach to serious mental illness and not just a program. So why do we talk about the boat? I mean, just as an aside, we use this metaphor. When I first brought it up with Rocky, he said to me, well, I'm really more of a land person. So, I hiked a lot. And I was like, yeah, but I can't really make that work. I did that, I think, because we were trying to make it accessible. And it seemed to be reasonable as a sort of metaphorical line. So we went with it. One of the issues in terms of writing the book is how much it should be formal, informal, what the voices should be like. But that's why the metaphor of the boat. And finally, we really were interested in having people tell their tales. One of the things that's great about Rob and Ann's book is that it's personal. And in general, personal accounts, I think, are the most compelling and authentic and just moving. So we have parents and some alums of the Lodge program who have given their accounts, they're spectacular. One of the issues that I would love to hear people's feedback about is where they go in the book. Are they interwoven? How are they used? So that the book feels that it is not fragmented, not choppy, but on the other hand, that it keeps your interest. It's not just dry, interesting. Okay. We did have initially one reader. We got Randy K. To read it in the earliest stages. Randy K is a really interesting woman, mother of a schizophrenic son, who, along with two other also very interesting women, have a podcast called Three Mothers in the Trenches. She wrote a book about her son. She's a good writer. And so we solicited some early feedback from Randy about the book. And based on that, we did more than tweaking. We sort of reworked how the lines of the book were going to go. We're very open to that. There is a structure, and I think the structure is there, but feedback, this workshop is not just for, it's not for show. We're really interested in hearing from you about your thoughts. And obviously, some of you have been able to read larger portions of the book. It has evolved even since you read those portions. Some of you have only read little portions, but we would love to hear about that from you. Privacy issues have obviously been an issue with the book because we talk about different patients, all of whom are giving their consent to be talked about, but one of the chapters is not there because it really takes a look at the titration of medications, and we didn't want to put it out there until everybody saw what they saw in hard copy, because of course you can write something, but then when you see it actually in hard copy, you're not necessarily going to feel the same way about it. So that's really how the book evolved, based on the feedback that we get from the workshop. We will then sort of work that in, take it to a copy editor, and most importantly, try to figure out how to get it out there, because I think in terms of all this information that we've been talking about, Laura, I mean, the big issue is how do you get something smaller out so that as many people maximally see it and hear about it and understand what's going on. So that's the other piece of it. All right. Rocky, do you have anything to add before we, and I don't know that we have a whole bunch of people. Catherine, do you want to say anything?
Yes, thank you. I would like to first just say thank you to all the people that did contribute to this book, all the people we interviewed, and the people that gave their personal stories. As you said, that's a very central part of the book and very much what we had in mind in trying to tell the story of, we want people to tell the story as they lived it. And so I guess I really just want to emphasize that as you open with this, just to express our gratefulness and to really say this book is about the work of the team and the program and Rocky. Mm-hmm. So just want to express that gratefulness.
So, okay. I think what we are going to do on this end is people are going to have a chance to just go to the bathroom and then come back, and then we will start the workshop. Is that okay on your end?
Sounds good.
Yes.
Initially, we were trying to write a big kind of clinical theoretical paper, and which we really couldn't do because we can't do a double-blind study because we treat everybody and we treat everybody intensely, and there was no way we were going to stop doing that just to collect data. And I think that just put us at first it seemed like a trap, but then it seemed like, well, let's just describe it in a different way, the way it really happened, en natural, I guess is to put it, right? And not try to fit it into what is now the usual format. And once we looked at it, then it was clear that it wasn't the medication combination, it was the combination of the interaction of staff with patients, staff with family, and all the little dyads and triads of interaction that were critical in healing in some fashion. At least that's how it really looks to me. And it means, again, more of it, I think there are inflection points with the medicines that are clear, not in every patient, but in some patients are quite remarkably clear, that a staff member could say, you must have changed something changed in that patient. And I think, Katrina, your staff has seen that. You could see when somebody changes, and they'll call you up and say, someone did something, someone changed the medicine, but that's not a double-blind study. So the reason we titled this Beyond the Double Blind, and some was the pun, right? Was that really clinically useful data often does not come from the double-blind studies. It just doesn't. And because of that, we're put into a double bind. We're trapped in all these double blinds about doing what's best for the patient or following regulations, right?